Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Yeah, live around the world on the internet at MichaelDukesShow.com and across the great state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the program for Hump Day. Middle of the week, downhill slide. It's we could see the end of the week from here, and the week is actually ending tomorrow. Tomorrow is the final day of the show for this week because on Friday it is, of course, the 4th of July, and we are going to be we're going to have alternate programming pretty much everywhere we are. Alternate programming tomorrow and on Friday, and we'll be returning to the airwaves on Monday because Friday I'll be in Seldovia doing the big MC gig over there. And enjoying the 4th of July celebrations there in Seldovia for the first time. So that should be fun. I hope you enjoy that. And then we'll be back on Monday. So it's coming. So tomorrow we're going to have a little bit of firearms news, maybe some Willie Waffle. I'm still waiting to see if he can break away tomorrow morning to come over and join us or not. So we're going to be working on that and just kind of enjoying ourselves. Today on the program, we're packed. We got Melissa Burnett with the Fairbanks North Star Borough School Board in the green room, hanging out there, eating all my donuts and drinking all my coffee. And then we're going to be continuing here in just after that with Representative Jamie Allard. Jamie Allard's going to be joining us to talk about the session, Title IX, and all different kinds of stuff that's coming up. So it's a busy day today, and we should just get right. We should just get right to it. We shouldn't dabble any longer. Let's continue on. Let's bring Melissa Burnett up onto the stage here this morning and see what she has. Oh, she's got puppy love this morning. She's got it going on here as we get things ready to rock and roll. Hello, Melissa. How are you?
Good morning. I didn't eat your donuts. Otis did. He was a vengeful one this morning.
Oh, he ate all my donuts. I see
all of them. He wanted some mom love, but then was like, "Ooh, sprinkled donuts."
Sprinkled donut. He ate the ones with the sprinkles. Dang,
he did.
That's the thing. Now, Melissa and I've known each other for years, and she has really stepped up over the last few years, joining the school board, going to it, which as a homeschooling parent, I know can be. That could be a difficult situation. And then on top of that, she's now the president of the school board, which leads to its own set of complications, I'm sure. But she's trying to do what she can do over there at Fairbanks. And so we welcome her to the program this morning. How are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you? Good morning, everybody.
You know, it's morning, and boy, that came really quick. That's all I'm saying. It came really quick last night after us. Yeah, I definitely should have some chemical enhancement this morning is what I need, some caffeination. But we're ready to go, and I want to talk with you a little bit about kind of the status of what's happening in the Fairbanks school district and what you see happening across the state, because you've got kind of a unique view as, you know, first as a mom, as a homeschooler, then as a school board member, then as a president. I know you've gone down to Juneau and helped, you know, talk to legislators and tried to lobby and get some changes. You're also, you know, more of a fiscal conservative than I think many members of the school board have been in many years. And so you've kind of got this unique perspective. So let's start off, first of all, with the 10,000 foot view of, you know, where we got in the school year, or excuse me, in the session, what it looked like, what was fought for, what happened after the vetoes and everything else. Let's just start with like the top down view and give us your thoughts here on this last session of where we are at right now.
Yeah, like you said, I did. I spent 4 months, really, is what I like to tell people. I spent 4 months. I was in Juneau for 4 days, and then I got several calls to come back and testify. So let's start at the top, like you said, with the school district. We faced a $16 million deficit this year. That was on top of the 28 million from last year and then the 26 million the year before. So we have been in this deficit spending since I have been on the board, which has been something that I have had to come to grips with. Like, how in the world did we get here? So this year we went in with a $16 million deficit. As the president of the school board, I decided that there was a lot that we still needed to do. There was a lot of can kicking for many, many years. And so I kind of tackled all of it. We went right at the custodial piece, which that hit me hard. I am a worker's wife. My husband is union. And so to have to contract out services was something I wasn't necessarily in favor of. But when you're looking at a $16 million deficit, $3 million in savings, which actually it's looking like it's going to come over that 3 million mark. I mean, the writing was on the wall. Then we went into the school closures, had 5 on the chopping block, ended up closing 3 of those. And then kept 1 at a lesser model. So they're going to have like 3 teachers next year out in Salcha. So that's going to be a little crazy. So we go into the session, and I was very adamant, guys, we need to push for the governor's policies. What the governor wants, we need to make sure that we are putting our necks out there and saying, yes, we have got to get behind this. He has been saying for years. Yeah, he is. I mean, I have been on this board screaming for 3 years. Guys, the governor is telling you that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me interrupt you just for a second, because it wasn't like he didn't warn you, right?
Right.
He was like, I will give you what you want. All I want is X, right? Just a few policy changes. Nothing. I didn't think it was anything radically drastic. I mean, I think that, there was a lot of hesitation because of some of the charter school elements, and they felt like they were losing control, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, overall, he was very clear. I will give you what you want if you put these policy things in place. And they were like, and this is not just the fair, but this is everybody was like, no, we want what we want. Shut up and give us the money. And to me, it was, again, totally unsurprising when he vetoed it, when you didn't give him what he said. He had his own bill. He's like, here's my bill. Same thing, same amount of money, everything else. It just has these things in it. And everybody was just reticent to. I mean, what was the response when you said just give him the policies? What was the response?
Oh no, we can't do that. We got to focus on getting the increase first. That they wanted the whole conversation to be, let's talk increase and then we can talk policy. No, they go hand in hand. I even had to have that own conversation with our own superintendent, who I hired and I really respect. But I'm like, Luke, we have got to have this conversation together. This is the only direction this goes. You don't have this conversation and then this. The governor is saying, and I've never known Governor Dunleavy to not do what he's going to say. And all of the things were crazy. I mean, even down to the teacher stipends, which didn't make it into the very end. And everyone's like, oh, I didn't know he wanted those. Yeah, you did. They were in it last year. You knew he wanted that. Just because he didn't make it in, it didn't make it in this year doesn't mean that's still not something he wants. So it was just astounding to me, the response that I got with that. But I still charged forward. I went to Juneau. I sat in front of Senate Education. I sat in front of House Education, Senate Finance, House Finance, telling them, you got to have this policy piece. This is what you got to do. And at the end of it, well, you see what happened. I do think that a lot of these policies were centered around Anchorage, and I would have liked to see more for everybody else too. But at the same time, open enrollment, we already do that in Fairbanks. What was the big deal with that?
Right.
We do that.
It's already being done across the state. This would have codified it. I mean, they're doing it casually as kind of a, gratis thing. This would have just put it into the actual regulations to say, okay, you can officially do, even though you're doing this, you could officially do this. But they couldn't even give you that.
Yeah. And that seemed like an easy win to me, right? I remember sitting in front of Senate Finance, and Senator Keel was like, I am just blown away by your support for open enrollment. Like, why would you be blown away by my support for that? This makes sense. This is a win. You give the governor this, we get this. Like, it just seemed to go hand in hand. And then the correspondence piece, making the correspondence students a whole. Right now, they're counted as a 0.9. And so it would have made them as a whole, right? They would have been counted basically almost like a brick and mortar student. And so that would have been more funding for districts, which everybody knows, or I hope everybody knows, districts cannot build their own revenue. They rely on the state. They rely on their local municipalities and boroughs. So why would we not want to make this a whole so that we could find a way to bring more revenue into the district? I don't like looking at students like numbers. I don't like that. But that's point blank what this is. And again, it was met with, well, we want more testing for homeschool students, and we want to make sure that they're actually doing what they say they're going to be doing, and that they're getting the education that they say they're getting.
Right.
But that tramples on a parental rights issue.
Right. Well, in this, I guess we should have started this whole thing with saying the views expressed by Melissa are Melissa's alone and not that of the board. Okay.
Thank you, Michael Dukes.
I keep forgetting that. I mean, to me, that's obvious when somebody comes on usually and is like, okay, but in her position as a parent and as a concerned citizen, this is her position.
Yes, this is my position as a private citizen. I understand on my position on the board, but this is me speaking as my own.
Right. But again, giving us that unique insight of being on the board and seeing this. Yeah, I don't understand this. What this shows to me, and this is my opinion, not Melissa's, but what this shows to me is that there is this causal, there basically is just, we want what we want, and we're not going to give you any, it was a question of, is this a tall man bad kind of thing? Or is this just we want all the money and we want you to butt out because we know what's best? That's kind of the dichotomy here, and was that, am I feeling this wrong, or is that kind of the reaction overall?
No, that would pretty much nail on the head there. That's exactly, I actually, in years past, I've been to Juneau for several years now. I've been going. This is the first year that I walked out of that building and I just went, what in the world happened? Like, I walked out of there feeling just so low. And that never happens. Like, I usually feel good about my conversations. I didn't feel good. I had representatives look me in the face and tell me they were not interested in anything to do with policy underneath this governor because he's out getting ready to be out the door. And so why invest in policy when we could have somebody new? And that was astounding to me because I said, so you're willing to not fund students because you don't like this governor? And the answer was yes. That was the response. And that's not everybody. That's not the whole legislature, but that was many of key figures that were saying this. So when you have those key figures that are shouting this and then working their ways, because they don't got that OMA thing that we have to abide by. They're just allowed to go do whatever they want.
Open Meetings Act, right. They can meet behind closed doors. You guys have to meet in public and do everything else with very few exceptions. And so, you have to do it all on the public. This, we're up against the break here, but I just, I could feel her frustration with this whole kind of thing, of shutting it. But we're going to continue here. Melissa Burnett is our guest, and we'll be back with more. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Dukes Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return to more in just a moment. We'll be back right after these messages. Don't go anywhere.
Listened to by more staffers in Juneau than any other show because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, oh man, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad, bad man.
The Michael Duke Show.
I'm a bad, bad man.
That liner cracks me up. I'm like, yep, what they just heard. Oh man, they're
Yeah.
gonna be pissed.
Yep, I'm a bad, bad man. All right. Melissa Burnett is our guest, and I'm still trying to wrap my brain around the fact that you're out there telling people this is what he wants. It's not too much. We should go ahead and give it to him to get what we want. That's give to get. That's compromise, right? I mean, that seems pretty simple and easy. And it's not like it's a hard compromise. You're taking care of kids, right? You're taking care of students. And you would think that taking care of the kids' needs would be more important than getting a W, than getting a win, than getting, to being able to say, a tall man bad or whatever. You'd think that that's what it would be about. But what it feels like it's more about protecting the establishment, protecting their own, bolstering the system versus the student, and just demanding more money, to do more of what you want instead of what the group as a whole want, I guess.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. What's crazy is I am pro education, absolutely through and through. And I have when I ran 3 years ago on the school board, for the school board, I told people, look, I'm not the candidate that's going to come out here screaming, burn it down, because that's not what I believe. But I'm also going to come in and say, look, if you want funding, you have to have those pieces to make yourselves accountable to get that funding. It's a give, like you said, it's a give-take situation, a give-give, if you will, even, right? The governor wants to give something, we have to give something. And in years past, there were policies I didn't agree with, but this year, these seemed like wins, right? Yes, I would like to see more policy focused on outcomes for everybody as well. But the correspondence piece, that's not a complicated one. Make them whole. Why do you not want to make them a whole? The charter school piece, yes, do that now with HB 57 and the veto. That is changing. And we could talk about that a little later. But like the charter school piece, if you want school boards to not buck, make it so they can't. I approve of that 100% because we faced that right this year where I had a whole board bucking to something because of policy. So fix the policy so that we don't have this option. And it seems easy to do. These seem like easy wins. You're fixing a policy. You're making students a whole. You're doing this open enrollment thing. So if a student from Eagle River, their parents decide they want to go to Diamond or West Anchorage, let them go to West Anchorage. What is the big deal in that? Trust me, 500 students from Eagle River are not going to go to West Anchorage. You'll have a handful maybe.
Right. No, and again, this was already happened. That policy piece was already happening on a case-by-case basis. It was already going on. This just would have codified it. Again, it seems like it's a tantrum, right? It's no, I want my way, and you're gonna give it to me. And they forced it through. I mean, the governor provided his own legislation. He's like, no, I don't like that. When he vetoed the first one, here's what I want, laid it all out. And it was all pretty close to what they were looking for. It had the right amount of money. It had everything else. It just said, and they could have fixed HB 57. They could have fixed HB 57 to add those policy pieces in there.
The governor gave them time.
Yeah. And then it's like they're standing defiantly. And for me, this ends up looking more and more like this is going to be, they're trying to make it a campaign, and it kind of goes back to what you were saying. Well, this governor's not going to be here, so why should we give him what he wants? We're going to wait for our own people. Well, meanwhile, the kids are languishing at 51 out of 53 as far as scholastic achievement. That's don't we care about the kids?
Right. I agree.
Don't we care about what the kids are doing? It's It's insane. All right, we're gonna rejoin here in a hot second. So let's get back to it. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all the YouTube-y things and all that kind of stuff. Let's get more folks involved in the conversation. Melissa Burnett, our guest. Here we go.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Huh. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
Oh, that's right. Not your daddy. Although I may look like one, I am not the internet's daddy. I've got 5 kids already. I don't need more. All right. Melissa Burnett is our guest. She is with the Fairbanks North Star Borough School Board. She's the president, but she's here in her capacity as a private citizen to comment on all the things that happened during the session, what's going on right now, and more. All right. So we were talking about what was going on during the session, your push to say, let's just give some of these policy changes. None of that happened. None of that directives happened. So the governor vetoed a chunk of it. Now, not the lion's share. I mean, you got 500 out of 700, right? So it's not the end of the world. You still got a big chunk of it. It is permanently in the BSA, which I mean, I personally have a huge problem with, because now we're basically locked in forever at that rate, but it's there. And so what is the ramifications of that? After they had the opportunity to do the right thing, put the policies in, get the full amount, yada, yada, yada. They didn't. Okay. Now it's 500. So what are the ramifications for the Fairbanks North Star Borough from your perspective? And what is good move, bad move? Where do we go from here?
Well, this is the part that people won't like. It was absolutely a horrible move that it got cut down to 500. That's where I got upset. That's where I came in. And as people know, I did write a couple op-eds over it. Well, I didn't write them, but I helped co-author a couple op-eds where we were very frustrated with the cut. Now, I'm speaking as Fairbanks here, not the state as a whole. I understand there are issues with other school boards and what they do, but this is Fairbanks and the board that I have been sitting on for 3 years. In 3 years, we have cut over 200 positions. We have almost eliminated vital programs like ELP, which are severely needed. We've had cuts to SPED. We have closed schools, 4 of them since I've been on the board, 1 a military school, which that sucked. The contract of custodial pieces. So Fairbanks has been doing some very hard work. We have a very good board this year that actually finally came together, and people know this is not a conservative board. There are 2 of us on the board now, me and Loa, that are more fiscally conservative. The rest are not. But this board said, no, we need to be doing this. And so everybody, it was almost, I would say most votes were 5-2, 6-1. So almost unanimous, majority of the board agreeing this is where we need to go. And we have made so many hard cuts. I wasn't mad that I knew the cut was coming. Like, I knew he was going to do this. Obviously, he didn't get what he wants. And I'm frustrated with that as well. I'm so angry that we couldn't give him anything that he wanted. I expected 600, 570, 560. I didn't expect the 500, which left Fairbanks back with $5.7 million deficit. Now, the borough did come in with that extra 2.7, so my hat's off to them. Given our taxpayers, that's not going to bode well for them. So that's like, thanks, borough, but like, ouch. So you've got that. So our deficit turned into 2.5. And to me, that was another school that was raises in class sizes. That was, because I don't have much left to cut. We've cut admin. I've done 1.8 in admin. It's getting really down to nothing here.
Right.
And
Well,
it was frustrating.
yeah, I imagine it is. But let me back up for just a second here. As you said, the school board has been facing deficits for years, right? I mean, this is not a new occurrence. When you joined the board, this crisis was already brewing and was already on in step here. Part of the problem is that we have a declining enrollment in brick and mortar schools across the state. We've had a declining enrollment. It's projected to continue to be a declining enrollment. And the only funding mechanism that we have is this per student count in October that we do to fund it. Now, what that says to me from the 10,000-foot view, looking down and looking in from the outside, is that the folks who have been there in the past, and even the folks who are there today, are refusing to acknowledge that the future is bringing fewer students, which will translate into fewer dollars, and that we should be desperately trying to consolidate and shrink down the size of what we have right now, and and doing what we can with less, because that's what it's going to be. And that means, again, increasing the concentration in each school, consolidating these schools. And that may mean that some people lose their jobs, and whether it's administration or teaching staff or whatever, but because there's going to be fewer. Anchorage has 25,000 student seats. That's what they have the capacity for. They're projected to have 12,000 kids in the next 3 years. That's going to be it. They have 25,000 seats, but 12,000 kids. But they want to spend and keep the budgets like they still got those 25,000 students to keep those doors open and keep those empty seats paid for and everything else. You can't, the math doesn't work. You can't have half the students that you have the capacity for and continue to expect that you're going to receive the expenditures like you're fully stocked. I mean, isn't that part of the problem? I mean, what's the Fairbanks enrollment numbers look like? You guys are going to be down. You were down a chunk. Was it 6% or something I mean, if that continues over the course of the next 5 years, all you can see is that it's going to have to go down, right?
Yeah, no, you are absolutely correct. And I want to back up for a minute because I was on a rant there. We didn't cut SPED. We cut aides that assisted with SPED. So SPED is funded, we get funding for that. So I just wanted to make that correction. I realized I said we cut SPED. We didn't cut SPED, but we did cut aides that help with SPED. So I just wanted to correct that record real quick. But yeah, no, you are correct. We did have a massive loss in students this past year. It was over 600 students. Most of that was half of that I would say was self-inflicted, as we took away the ability for parents who had their students at Monroe to be able to use their allotments for Monroe. And so we took that away. And so those students, that was about 300 of them, dropped out. And so that was where some of that went. But the rest of it was they left the state, and we can track that. And so that's a huge thing. There is this kids going into homeschool. So that's been pretty stagnant. That's been pretty even across the board. We have as many going into homeschool as they are going back into the brick and mortars right now. But yes, we do have people leaving and students leaving, and we do need to correct that. And Kevin is correct. I see him making some comments here, looking at increases. And actually, that's why I want to be back on the board for 3 years. How do we increase outcomes? How do we make this better? I've spent 3 years doing cuts. I want to spend 3 years focused on exactly that. I want to work on outcomes. I want to work on policies that will bring these students back to our districts, because that is the fix. How do we make brick and mortars appealing again?
Well, but I think that's my point. My point is, the focus has been so much by all the boards across the state, not just Fairbanks, but by all the boards across the state. The focus has been so much on maintaining the status quo And what I mean is maintaining the level of funding where it's at versus where the formula says it should be because of the number of students and everything else. Nobody has been willing to make the hard statement that says we are going to have fewer students in X number of years, and we should be planning for that now. I mean, am I wrong? Or
no, you're not. No.
Past school boards have basically just ignored it and said, we've got to get the same amount of dollars we got this year or more, even though we're going to have less students, which is not how the whole thing is built.
I will say in Fairbanks, we did do just that this year with our budget. We did budget for a loss. We budgeted for student loss this year. We saw the writing on the wall, and so we did that. And that is something that districts need to come to reckoning with. It's time to start budgeting for losses in enrollment. It's time to start budgeting for those things to help offset these deficits. If you have vacancies that haven't been filled in 10 years, it's probably time to get rid of those positions and reincorporate those back into the budget and, start making decisions, because this isn't just about the state and that, because the state has its problems, right? I mean, look at where we are and the price of oil right now and all that. I'm not blind to everything that's going on. I understand that the funding piece, there's not much, there's not funding. So you've got to have the accountability there, and you got to focus on the outcomes, and you got to focus on the things that will help bring that revenue in, which is making schools appealing again and working on the outcomes and the policies. Because right now what you have is parents who can homeschool. I mean, I homeschool. Right. There's a reason. I am a homeschool mom. If people don't know that, all three of my children are homeschooled through Best, and they got straight A's, and they're doing great. And that's not a knock on our schools. That's my choice of parenting. That's what I choose to do. But that's why I'm on this board, to fight for those students, to say, hey, I'm ready to put my kids back in school. I'm ready. I just want to see that increase there, and I'm working for that. So,
and it seems to be an afterthought. That's the thing. It seems to be in every conversation. It seems to be everything you've talked about before. Oh, we don't want to give him any of this. We just want the money. It always seems to be, it's about the money, and it's about the power, and it's about, again, keeping the status quo. And the scholastic achievement is, if anything, an afterthought, even if it's even addressed. It doesn't seem like a lot of times it's addressed. Although I did love the shift in talking points halfway through the session when they were like, we're not failing, we're starving. But again, if you look at the amount of money that's being spent, and Bob Griffin did an amazing job of this in his piece last week when Bob was on the program talking about it. I mean, we're spending overall in the state $28,000 per student, more than almost any other state in the nation on education, and yet we're in the bottom. So when do we have this conversation about scholastic achievement, about what the actual outcomes are, and not just an argument for, well, if we only had more money, we spent more in 2015. That was the year that Alaska spent more on students than any other state in the nation, period. And yet we were still 45th out of 50th. So this is not a money issue per se. This is a policy. This is an educational model. This is an issue where there's something fundamentally flawed in the way we're doing things with what we have. This is not something you can simply throw money at. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. You can't throw money at anything and fix a problem, right? But I would argue that if we also don't fund it, that we're also not going to fix it too. We're in a really crazy situation, and it's not anybody that is on this boards right now fault on why we're here. Like I said, I can't speak for other districts, but in Fairbanks, it really is getting hard to figure out how we survive and make this work when we have been doing all the hard things. So all these things you talk about, we have done, we are doing. Have it been done in the past? No, but it's being done now. And is it a little bit too late? It almost feels like it is, because it's like we're always doing this catching game, right? Where if you say, you need funding, and here's why. Then all of a sudden I'm a NEA shill who has all these NEA talking points. It's like, well, no, I'm talking from logic because I'm sitting here on this board for 3 years making these cuts and trying to scream about outcomes. And we are focused on outcomes. In Fairbanks, we're seeing growth. Our reading, our reading scores are amazing right now. We're seeing so much progress in reading and math right now in our district, but we send those results and they get ignored. And it's like, I know it's not the 30% increase you want to see right now, but it is a 6% increase. And it's amazing to see what's happening in our schools and to see that. And the frustrating thing for me as a board member is to see the increases and see that we're making these good moves, and to still be slapped down so hard all the time because of other districts.
But do you see that this is going to be a perpetual game of catch up because of that declining enrollment?
Yes.
I mean, that's contributing to the problem because the enrollment is projected to decline. It's just going to exacerbate it. You're going to perpetually be playing catch up. Somebody has to advocate for some other types of changes because it can't just be about the money fixing the outcomes. The outcomes have to be fixed in other ways because, like you said, if you want more students to return, more students to come back from charter schools or homeschools or correspondence schools or allotment schools or anything else, you've got to find a way to attract them in there. And it's not going to be the money that's going to do it. It has to be the outcomes, because that's what a lot of homeschooling parents are liking, is their outcomes for their students are much better than what they're getting in brick and mortar. They wouldn't even consider going back to brick and mortar because of it. And so those are the issues that have got to be fixed. We're up against the break again. This is like the fastest hour in radio. We're going to continue here. Melissa Burnett is our guest. The Michael Duke Show continues. We got more coming up. Don't go anywhere. Don't forget, in hour 2, Jamie Allard is going to be joining us. Representative Allard. And we'll continue to talk more about state politics then. Meanwhile, back with more in just a moment with Melissa Burnett on the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, Melissa is our guest here on the program in the break. And this is something that I've advocated for years. Before I left Fairbanks, I said this, and I've said it many times, that there is something fundamentally flawed in the way we do schooling in America today. And we could see it because even back then, 15, 18 years ago, the decline was pretty dramatic as far as achievements, especially when compared to other Western nations and things like that, the amount of money that they were spending versus their outcomes and things like that. And, somebody has to acknowledge that the system as we have right now, whether you want to call it the Prussian school model that Kevin talks about or not, there's something fundamentally broken in the way we're doing things. And what we've tried to do over the last 40 years is just throw money at the problem. And that's not fixing it. Am I out of line here? Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. I do agree that there has been a lot of throwing money at the problem and no accountability for trying to offset anything. So, when I look at this, I can go back about 15, 20 years and I can start it. You can see about 15 years ago is when it really becomes clear. If you go back in the budget from 15 years ago, you can start seeing where things are amiss. And if you go back to the meetings of those school board meetings, which I went back and read all the reading files, you see the warnings from administration, like, hey, this is where we are. This is what this is going to look like. It was, well, we got money in the coffers, so we're okay. We got money in the coffers, so we're okay. Well, then it got to a point where there was too much money in the coffers. And so the borough at the time came and said, hey, you've got a lot of this. And if we want to keep this minimum contribution going, you should probably spend that down a little bit. Well, the superintendent at the time heard spend and not little bit. She has heard spend. And so it turned into this, well, let's buy this and let's buy that. And that's where people get mad because they see purchases of desks and purchases of this and that and all these, just crazy purchases of things. And you're like, whoa, the money just started disappearing and going away. And then you get COVID. Well, and then the loss of students and everything that happened there. Well, there you go. We had the perfect storm to put us where we are. And now we have to figure out where we go. What do we do? How do we fix this? And it sucks to play the catch-up game all the time. It really does. It really sucks to sit here and have to always be behind. And I don't know how to fix it, but I think that focusing on outcomes is where we go. We've got to figure that if we focus on outcomes, maybe that's how we fix this, right? And is that an afterthought of mine? No, but I've been by myself, guys.
Are you ready for my sage advice?
Yes, sir.
The outside looking in. Let me stroke my beard here for a minute, so I make sure that I'm, that I'm wise and wisdom because of the white hair.
The pontification.
Let me pontificate here. Let me lay it out for you. Until the districts focus on the fact that they are going to continue to lose students for the foreseeable future, until they acknowledge that and realize that their best bet is to build a consolidation plan that puts all of the students so that all of the buildings are at 80% capacity or more, and that they may keep one school in reserve or one building in reserve if they ever have an expansion or whatever. But until they do that and acknowledge that they need to cut back to that level, that you're always going to be playing catch up. Until they acknowledge that is the one problem. I mean, yes, the education outcomes could increase enrollment. I agree with you. I think that's brilliant. You need to do that. But to fix the stuff, you got to triage this, right? You got a femoral artery that's cut and it's pumping blood out, and you're sure it would be nice to get a manicure and make sure we look all good and everything else. But meanwhile, we're bleeding out at the femoral artery. The first thing you do is you stop the bleeding. And so the first thing that the school district and the board and everybody involved needs to acknowledge is we have a continual declining enrollment, and next year is going to be worse than this year. And the year after that's going to be worse than next year, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Until you get that far ahead of the power curve and just say, consolidate all the students into each one of these schools, change it, do whatever you need to do, nothing's going to change. You got 20 seconds. Tell me if I'm right.
No, you're right. And that's why we did that this year. I wish we would have done more. We only counted for about a 260 loss, but I agree with you, Michael. We've got to account for it.
You've got to get ahead of it. That's the only way you can do it, is get ahead of it. Because if you don't, you're again, continual catch up. That's all you're going to be doing. Yep. Melissa Burnett's our guest, The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense, Liberty Based, Free Thinking Radio. Go, go, go.
Go, go, go.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
Yes, I am. Welcome back to the program, The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense, Liberty Based, Free Thinking Radio. Melissa Burnett is our guest. One final segment here on the show. All right, Melissa. We could be on this for 2 hours today, for sure. Absolutely.
I could do this for 6 hours, Michael.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't take it. But here we are. And now the governor's vetoed. We've still got the upcoming session, which I want to talk about before we run out of time here. But now the governor's vetoed, and now there's a lawsuit, right? We're not fully funding again. $28,000 per student is not adequate. That's what this lawsuit's saying. And apparently the Fairbanks North Star Borough School Board said, sure, we're out of money, but we'll throw money at this. How much has the school board committed to spending on this lawsuit against the governor?
$125,000
$125,000. All right.
as a teacher.
That's a full teacher. That's
a
a full teacher
That's
and
a
more.
full teacher.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, looking at this, looking at the case history, looking at what's happened before, I think that this is a hard uphill battle. When he gave them $500 per student in perpetuity forever, on top of the $1.6 billion in one-time funding that's happened over the last 5, 6, 7 years, it's going to be hard to make an argument that we're inadequately funding education. It really is.
It'll be interesting to see where this goes. Yes, it got voted in by the board. It's a very, very sensitive situation for me. Because I've got like 3 different hats here, right? Personally, as a board member, and then as the board president. And so it's a very complicated situation. Do I feel that Fairbanks has done the things needed to be funded properly? Yes. Is there more we can do? Of course, there's always more, but we've done a lot. We don't have money. We're not flush in our coffers, which sucks. And so do I think it's pointless? I don't know. I don't know where my thoughts or feelings are on this. I would have liked to see that money go back into our budget and maybe do a Barnett teacher. We cut the Barnett's magnet program. It would have been nice to be able to put a teacher or 2 back there, since we did cut that. So I would have rather see that money go elsewhere, but it's I don't know. It's a hard one for me, Michael.
Yeah, look, this is a self-inflicted wound. As you said earlier, if they had just given the governor his priorities, which the governor and many other proponents of policy changes would have been in favor of. I mean, you would have had almost the entire legislature vote yes on this, and the governor happily sign off on it if they just given in on a few of those policies. This became more about, again, a pissing match between the governor and the legislature, and it really wasn't about students.
I agree. I don't disagree with that. It became a pissing match, and that's where we're still at.
Yeah. And now this lawsuit, which I don't think is going to solve anything except burn up a bunch of money, most of it public money, because it'll be public entities who are fighting against public entities. So it's just going to burn up that money that could have been used some other way. It's going to be amazing. All right. The next session is around the corner. And we saw it the day after they passed the bill, before the governor even vetoed it. Oh, well, this is a nice start. Next year, they're coming back for more, right? Again, they're not acknowledging what we were just talking about, that we need to look to the future. We need to understand that there's going to be fewer students, that the budgets are going to be less, and we need to make plans accordingly. Instead, they're like kicking the can again. Like you said, oh, we've got money in the bank, right? That was what you said earlier. They say, okay, so now we're going to focus on getting more money in the next session. Is that what we're facing?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're facing. Between the override, trying to get the override to happen, and going into it, yeah, I do think that's where this goes. It's more. It is. It's more. It's going to be more.
When is it enough? And what is the number, right? Because we heard, I mean, early on last year, it was $1,900 per student. $1,900 increased per student, which would have made it, $6,000-7,000 per student at the base, which would have mean that Anchorage students would have, because they get a must multiplier, it would have been somewhere around $10,000, $11,000 per student in the Anchorage district when we were running a $1.5 billion deficit in the state. When is it enough? And when do we acknowledge that this is a different type of problem?
Yeah, that's my question too. It seems that Fairbanks has come to that reckoning. When does everybody else get on board? Because we really have a problem here. And while I do agree with funding education and making sure our students are taken care of, we're at a point where you just can't keep funding things without accountability. And so you can't keep funding things when there's always a loss. And so Anchorage and Kenai and Juneau and all these other school districts really do need to come to a reckoning and understand that you got to get on the same page as Fairbanks, and you got to start doing the hard things. You got to start counting for loss. You got to start counting and consolidating. I mean, Anchorage had how many schools up this year for closure, and what did they do? 2. They have tons of space.
Right.
That they should be consolidating.
Well, they just spent, they're about to spend millions of dollars expanding another school when they're going to have half their empty. I mean, in 4 years, they're going to be half empty. Why are we spending millions of dollars in that regard? I just got a text from little Birdie that the governor is going to call a special session today.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting.
Interesting. Yeah.
I just got a text out of the blue.
I heard from a little birdie that man's pretty frustrated. And I do want to say while I'm here, because this was my whole point for coming on. So I am running for re-election this year. And there's been a lot of rhetoric going around here in town, which has been a little hurtful and a little frustrating for me, because I understand people are upset that, I did co-author these op-eds. I am not anti-governor. I really do support Governor Dunleavy. I spent months advocating for his wants and needs. I've spent years advocating for his wants and needs, and I won't stop. I'm still advocating for his wants and needs. And I do agree with where he's at and his thinking, but when you are on a board that has worked so hard and you have done what the governor has asked, it just is a slap to everything you've worked for, especially when I'm doing what you want, buddy. I'm doing what you want, what you asked of me. I'm trying so hard.
Right.
And nobody's listening.
60 seconds, final elevator pitch on the way out the door then, Melissa, since we're running for re-election. Give it to me.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Look, I am pro education, but I am pro accountability, and I am pro outcomes. And I have worked really hard on this school board for 3 years. And I am running for re-election. And I just would really appreciate the support, because it is a hard world out there. So if you support me, I have a Facebook page, I have a website, Melissa Burnett for schoolboard.com. Same thing on Facebook, Melissa Burnett for school board. I'd appreciate the follow and the like and the support. I'd like to be here for 3 more years so I can keep holding Fairbanks accountable. That's what this is about.
Melissa and I don't always agree, but when we do, she's right. Okay. So remember that. Just go out there and support Melissa Burnett for school board. Melissa, thanks for coming on board and joining us today. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, folks, we got more coming up. Hour 2 dead ahead. Representative Jamie Allard's going to be joining us. We'll return in just a moment. All right, Melissa, final bite. You know how this works. You've been here long enough. Final bite at the apple here. I mean, again, to me, this is crystal clear and has been crystal clear for years that school boards need to plan for decline.
Yep.
And
you're right.
If they got ahead of it, they could stop it and then build up from there. But instead, they're like this death of 1,000 cuts, right? They never get ahead of the power curve. And so they're always struggling, which might be part of the thing. Maybe that's what they want. They want the public to be outraged and involved so they can continue to get as much money as they need or as they want, instead of actually addressing and fixing the problem. But
it is about outrage. That's the thing that frustrates me. It is about outrage, because we just had this conversation, and I'll be nice and not say who it was, but a fellow board member and I went back and forth on activities. They wanted to gun for activities. And I said, why? And their response was, because it will piss the parents off. And I was like, that is not a win with me. You are not going to win me over with trying to create outrage, because no, we're not doing that. We need to be accountable. And I agree with you. It's time to count for losses. It's time to count for all the things that the school board should have been doing all along, which is what I am fighting for. And I have tried so hard. And it sucks to be in the minority. I know there's several in here that have been in that position and are in that position. I'm not a rhino. but I'm on a school board, and that makes it really hard when you don't have control. So, yeah, there's that.
Look, I've been a minority of one at one point on the assembly, right? Before
That was me.
Then it was me and Lance Roberts, and we were just two out of the whole thing. But I've been a minority of one. I know how much it could suck. They should just call me Dr. No, because I just voted no on everything. And, nobody wants to do it. But
I am the perpetual no.
Yeah, exactly. If you plan for the worst and hope for the best, all your surprises will be happy ones. And that's what the school boards need to learn. What is our worst case scenario? We know we're going to hit this number in X number of years. Just pull in our horns, consolidate all of the schools down to the essentials, close the rest, mothball them, sell them off, do whatever you need to do. That way, when the surprises start to come, they will be happy ones. If you keep like one school in reserve or whatever, all the rest of them are at 80%, that would be a great starting point, because then you could build back from there.
I agree. And I think we should also consolidate school districts, but that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah. 54 different districts with 54 different duplications of structures and overheads and administrators. I mean, why do we need 54 school district superintendents for some districts that have less than, 15, 20, 30 students? I mean, why are we doing that? It makes no sense, but this is where we are. And that is the problem. And we didn't get into the fact that the state wanted to pull back on the local contribution cap. We didn't even get to that, right?
Oh, I know.
I just find, we should just, again, it's $80 million, but at some point you just be like, I don't want your money. You keep your money. We will fund them the way that we want. If one locality wants to tax their people more and the people agree, they should be able to do that. That's just, it's infuriating to me to watch that kind of stuff right there. It's crazy.
Agreed.
All right. Melissa Burnett, thanks for coming on board. And I'm sure we'll have you on before the election in October, right? October.
Yep.
And so we'll see what we can do here, but it's good to talk with you. Thanks for being part of it.
Hey, thank you so much. And I just want to tell Kevin really quick, I'm working on it, buddy. I'm working on it. Thank you for having me on, and I'll see you guys later. If you have questions, reach out.
Okay. Thanks, Melissa. Appreciate you being on board today. Thanks for coming on and joining us. Melissa Burnett, our guest. She's trying, guys. She's trying. It's a painful process. Shoot. All right. Well, I guess we'll do it this way. See if we can get. She was supposed to come in.
Hi, Mr. Duke.
Hello. Okay. All right. You had me confused there. I was in the middle of it, and then I saw, she's going to call. So, how are you this morning?
We're not on the air or anything, right?
It's just you, me, and 60 of our closest friends on the internet. So it's just you and me and all the people on Facebook and YouTube and Rumble.
Right now
we're
live.
We're live.
Oh,
we're live with everybody. I called you immediately because you said I was going to call in, and usually I have to call the guest because usually there's a problem if they try to call me. So I decided to call you. Right through. So we are not on the air quite yet, but we are.
Okay.
We're talking with the public. They're listening in like a bunch of perverts.
I had my laptop at the office, so I figured I'd just do the call in instead.
Okay.
So thank you.
Well, that's fine. I'll run around here and pull your get everything set up and get your picture. You all ready to do this? It's been gosh, I don't know how long it's been. I think we've talked once before. It's been a hot minute. So
have we?
I think
I didn't even know that I've ever been on your
maybe
show.
You haven't. Maybe. Oh, you know what it was? We were like ships passing in the night. We had something. You were going to come on, and then something happened. That's what it was. I knew that I had written you down on a calendar at one point. So, well, this will be fun.
I'm excited.
All right.
It will be fun. I'm excited. Thank you, Michael.
Buckle up. It's going to be an exciting ride. Exciting ride. All right. Well, I'm going to put you back on hold here. We're going to be back to you here in just a minute. Jamie Allard is about to join us, and we'll get to all that here, which means that I've got some work to do here during the top of the hour during the show start because I've got to get names. I got to get her picture and everything. I got to do all the things that I don't normally have to do when people are on video. So I'll be right back. And then we'll be kicking it off. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio will return. Hour 2, dead ahead.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the program. It is hour 2 of the big radio broadcast for this hump day, Wednesday, and we are ready to go. Again, short week this week, short week. We've got Friday is, of course, the 4th of July. I will be over in Seldovia, emceeing over there in Seldovia. You'll have alternate programming on all the stations across the state, and we'll be. I mean, we're gonna. It'll be fun. It'll be great. But we'll be back on Monday. But that means tomorrow, Firearms Friday. Or Firearms is going to be Thursday, and since we have no Friday, it'll be partially Firearms Thursday. That's what I was trying to say. That's what's coming up tomorrow, and we may have some Willy Waffle and some other things as well. So we're gonna get into that. All right, but all the housekeeping out of the way. Hour 2. Big trumpets now. Guest on the program, and we just discovered it was for the first time because we had invited Representative Jamie Allard from House District 23 onto the program a couple times before, and it seems like each time something happened at the last minute. So in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I've had her on the program before. Then she's like, no, I don't think I've. So this is the first time. So we're going to talk with House Rep Jamie Allard from Eagle River, who is going to come on board and talk with us about the session, what happened, things that are going on, the latest in Title IX, which is there were some big Title IX announcements that have just come out, and of course, where do we go from here? And we might even ask her about that. Remember, I just said, for those of you just joining us, I got a text message here just a few minutes ago from a little birdie who I hadn't heard from in a long time, who said, by the way, rumor has it that the governor is going to be calling a special session today. So maybe we'll ask Jamie about that as well. All right. So without further ado, let's jump into it here and go over and see what Representative Jamie Allard has for us as we get ready to go on to the program. We bring her on right now. Good morning. How are you?
Oh.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are you this morning?
Okay, good. I'm doing great. Happy 4th of July early.
Yeah, happy early 4th of July to you as well. I mean, it just doesn't get much better than that, right? I mean, it's
It doesn't.
little Independence Day happening around here. We love it. We love it. Well, Jamie, thank you for coming on the program, and thanks for setting me straight. Like I said, I talk to so many people. Sometimes it's like, I'm sure they've been on the program before. I'm sure that's happened. But this is your first time. I'm going to try and be gentle. So, we'll go through it. We'll enjoy it. First things first, for folks who've never heard about you or don't know you, just give me the thumbnail backstory of who Jamie Allard is and the area you represent, et cetera.
I represent Eagle River down here, and we're just a little side part of the Anchorage municipality. I'm an Army veteran. I am a mom, a wife of almost 30 years, and I'm having a great time doing what I'm doing. I used to work for the U.S. State Department. I am somebody that has worked my entire life and kind of fell upon politics by Senator Laura Reinbold brought me into it back in 2018. And I know
I know.
But she's our gal, and Eagle
What?
River loves her.
No,
So
no.
there you have it.
I was just chuckling because I always like to ask the question: when exactly did you lose your mind and decide that politics was the way to go?
Well,
Right?
Laura Reinbold.
Yeah, that's Laura Ryan. We're going to blame Laura.
Laura Reinbold.
We'll blame Laura for that. That'll be fun.
We'll blame Laura, and having a good time doing it. And it was never anything that was ever something that I wanted to do, and it was never in the foresight to do. And here I am today.
Right.
So I ran for Anchorage Assembly, and I won in 2020. And I think I was the first new elected official during COVID at that time in the state of Alaska.
Wow.
So I went on there thinking I'm going to help with potholes and taxes, and let's do what we got to do. And absolutely different than what I anticipated.
Surprise. Surprise.
Hello.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be a hot mess. And then you decided to join the big show, and you jumped up into the legislature, and have been doing work and making waves ever since. And it's kind of fun to see. I kind of enjoy watching you from afar in the work that you do, because you don't really pull any punches. You don't hold back. You wear your pride, your patriotism, and your conservatism on your sleeve, and some people just don't like that. And I think that's okay. It's been fun to watch. It's been fun to watch you work this from the outside.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And it's something you just be transparent. You are who you are. And I think that's the difficulty with a lot of constituents is you're elected, and I know why I got elected, and I know who voted, supported me, and elected me, even though I represent all of Eagle River. And at one point I represented larger than what our Senate district was because I was on the Anchorage Assembly. I have to remember who elected me and why.
Right.
And I think that sometimes that could offend some folks. They're like, who is she? Well, I'm who I am, and I'm not going to backtrack and change who I am. That's my personality. That's my character, and I'm okay with that.
Right.
And even though, like I said, I represent all of my district, I do what the majority tells me to do. They are my puppet master.
I do what I'm told by the constituency.
I do what I'm told. Michael, I am only the voice. I'm only the vessel on which my district gets heard. And I think that could be confusing to some, saying, well, why don't you do this? Well, because I have people telling me what I need to do. You shouldn't, in my opinion, have your own opinion that would override the opinion of your district.
Right.
I don't know what some elected officials, I feel sometimes they forget who elected them and they go in a different direction. Well, that's just not going to be me.
Right. No, when I was on the assembly in Fairbanks, I tried to maintain, people knew who I was going in and they knew what I stood for. And I tried to stay true to that because that's what they elected me. That's the guy they elected, and I needed to be that guy. And it wasn't always easy, wasn't always fun, but you did what you had to do. Jamie, let's talk a little bit about this last session, because you and I haven't had a chance to talk before, so this is kind of the first outing. But you're going through this session. We're watching what's going on. All the oxygen. I mean, for the past 5 years, all the oxygen was taken up with the PFD, and this year that kind of got all shuffled off to Buffalo, and now it's all about education. And it's all about spending, really, is what it's about, whether it's education or defined benefits or more royalty relief for the Cook Inlet or what. It was always about spending. But nobody is looking at the hard numbers at the end to see how much is left in the piggy bank. And it's been a very tough run. So let's talk about specifically the education push this year. Give us your thoughts over how this whole thing went down.
Well, I don't know if people know that I was co-chair to education in 23 and 24. I had the opportunity at that point, because we were all trying to figure out where we stood, and we were in the majority, and to be on finance. And I had chosen to go be a chair on education. And unfortunately, I was paired with somebody that we have completely different views and perspectives. And so I was just a co-chair. The left has a tendency, the Democrats have a tendency to drive what the agenda is, and they're driving the agenda that education is the most important thing in the House. I'm not saying it's not important, But if you have a thriving economy and you have a thriving infrastructure, those things are going to dictate your education system. They really will. Parents will be able to decide more thoroughly what they want and have the funds to either put them in private school, do the whole charter school. They could do correspondence or homeschooling. They're different. I know people lumping them together, but homeschool and correspondence are different. And as important as education is, I see the writing on the wall. We're not going to be able to thrive in the state of Alaska without addressing our sustainability and our budget and how we address those issues. So education, my girls, and I think I'm one of the rare legislators, my girls went from kindergarten all the way up to graduate at Eagle River High School in the public system. And a lot of legislators will preach they don't have children in the system at all, or they just don't have children. You have legislators that put their kids in a charter school. They don't want to admit that out loud. They'll homeschool their kids, or they'll put them in a private school. So for me, I learned firsthand. My girls just graduated in 2023 and 2024. So for me, I went through the whole system with them. So I think I have a really good understanding of the brick and mortar. And we have a lot to address. And our education system is really hurting here in Alaska.
How did you feel as the news media continued to pound away at this story? And what I found interesting was that they picked up the talking points very early that, oh, we've underfunded education. We haven't kept up with inflation. We haven't done all. And while it's true that the BSA has not had much of an adjustment over the last 6 or 7 years, I mean, a couple percentage points, that didn't stop the, $1.2 billion in one-time funding that was going in there. So they kept acting like that we were starving the schools and that there was no money. We haven't been doing our fair share, totally ignoring that. What was your thought as a parent and as a former assembly member and just as a citizen as you watched this kind of thing play out?
I thought it was a manipulation of the people, the constituents, because the fact of the matter is we do fund, and it hasn't been flat funding. When I was as co-chair of education, I had brought out the documents of $2.6 billion was going into our education system. And now I think it's up to 2.9. The school districts became out of control when they started getting COVID funds, and those COVID funds weren't going to be sustained. So when you're watching the Anchorage School District continue to hire new people, even though the kids weren't technically in school, they were doing their work at home. Why are we increasing the overhead when we know that the funds for COVID aren't going to be sustainable? So when I'm watching everything go down, they're lying to the public, Anchorage School District specifically. When you are trying to educate the kids and you're trying to educate the parents and saying it's flat funding, that's just not accurate. You get federal funds, you get grants, you get local contribution, and then you get your state funds. So all of that didn't make sense. And they drove the narrative saying we're flat funded.
Hold the line here, Jamie. My phone just pooped the bed here, which is a good time for us to take a break. We're going to come back and reconnect with Jamie. Jamie Allard is our guest. We're going to continue here in just a second. Please, if you want, you can come check us out on Facebook. Facebook.com/Michael Duke Show/live. You can also find us on YouTube and Rumble out there. The audio-only live stream is up at michaeldukeshow.com. So if you have to step away from your radio, that's where you can go to find all that stuff. We're going to continue here in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return with Jamie Allard in just a moment.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, Jamie Allard is our guest. I'm going to see if I can try and reconnect everything here. It just arbitrarily crapped out on its own. Can you hear me, Jamie? All right. Let me do this real quick. Jamie, I'm going to call you right back. Okay. Okay. I'm going to try. We're going to try this one more time here and get her back on the on the deal there. Okay. Yeah, that was weird. Just beep and she's gone. Let's try this again here. We'll try it one more time here and get her. Okay. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna have to try it again. Like I said, it crapped out. This is why I do video. Hold the line. I'll call you right back. Jamie, the technical difficulties are starting to piss me off, man. That's what's happening here. Let me try this real quick. See if I can get this. Oh, come on, man. You're killing me. You're killing me here. Let's do this. Let's do this like this. I'll turn it off. And should you turn it off and turn it back on? That's gonna be the point here. Let's see if we can get this rocking and rolling. Please like and share the show. Like and follow the show page. Let's try and get more people involved in the conversation this morning here as we get ready to rock and roll. We will try this one more time here as we go. Come on, baby, hold together. Come on, baby, hold together. All right, Jamie, this is something's busted. I'm gonna have to revert here in just a second. Let me call you right back one more time here in a minute. It'll be about 2 minutes here. Jamie Allard is our guest. So you guys are going to talk amongst yourselves for a moment while I turn everything back off and back on. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Don't go anywhere. Be right back. All right. I think we're back on. Folks in the chat room can let me know if we've got the audio and everything else. And we're all ready to go. We're back in the recording. We're about 45 seconds out from rejoining. And we're ready to go. We're ready to get this done. All right. Jamie Allard, our guest. We're going to continue here in just a second. We're going to talk about what she sees as maybe her solutions for a lot of these problems that we have had over education, and whether or not they should have just given in and given the governor his policy changes. He would have been happy to give them their $700 per person and more. Jamie Allard's our guest. We're ready to get to it. Please like and share, like and follow, subscribe on YouTube, and ring the bell so you get notifications. And I don't know what you do on Rumble. I think you like and follow on Rumble, but whatever it is, go do it. Let's get to it. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay. I was so excited about that. All right, let's welcome back on the air with us right now. Jamie Allard continues, state rep for District 23. We're jumping back into this here with her and talking about this last legislative session. I do want to get to this Title IX stuff too here, so I don't want to get too far afield. But Jamie, you watched all this. We were just talking about, what the news media was covering and everything else. But I mean, what would have been the solution? What would have been the fix here with all these problems with the thing? I mean, nobody wanted to give the governor or any of the other legislators who were supporting these kind of policy changes or whatever. In your mind, if you were queen for a day, what should we have done?
I'd rather be king. I think that the reason, I mean, obviously it's politics, but we have 21 House Republicans. We have 11 senators that are Republican, and we have a Republican governor. Technically, the governor should have got what the governor wanted. I think that every single Republican could have said, hey, this is the one thing I wanted. And I believe we could have had a fair number of individuals that had every single one of the Republicans could have had one item that they really wanted in the bill. And it would have been fabulous. That's not what happened. So in order to have done what we needed to do, I don't even think the governor, in my opinion, I felt he was being very generous. And if the fact of the matter is, I don't think he asked for enough. And I thought he compromised very well. And had we just gone ahead and done that, they probably would have had their 700. I was no fan of 700, knowing that each student gets about $28,000 according to the NEA, because they siphon off the correspondence students who only get the BSA.
Right.
So it's pretty interesting. But yeah, why wouldn't we want a better system? And that's just not what they want. They just wanted the money, and that's not improving our system at all.
Well, that leads to the bigger.
I mean, I would be a mean governor. I would have just veto all of it.
Well, I mean, but I guess that leads to the bigger question is, I mean, to them, it seems like money is the only answer. There's no self-analysis on whether or not the system's working. There's no there's no looking into, are we doing the right thing, or, what's the problem?
Well, I mean, if you have an average class size across the state of Alaska, and I don't care what anybody says, when your average, this is what the NEA is saying, when your average class size is 25 humans and you get 700,000 per class, that's not a bad number. And it's really up to the leadership, not the state. We just fund the dollars. We can do some accountability if we can get it in there. It's up to their leadership to say, we're capsizing. We're just going to cap your classes at 25. If the administration can't figure out, when I say administration, I'm using ESD as an example. If they can't figure out how to make their classrooms a happy size, you got a problem in leadership. I mean, Jared Bryant, who's the superintendent, has no experience, and he's pretty embarrassing. If you can't figure that out, then you have a problem.
I was just talking with Melissa Burnett from Fairbanks, the school board president up there. And I mean, I said, until the school districts acknowledge that they have declining enrollment, they've had declining enrollment, they're projected to continue to have declining enrollment, until somebody addresses that and say, look, we've got a plan for the worst case scenario. We know we're going to be here in 5 years, and we should consolidate all the school buildings down and all the, put everything, make all the schools about 80% full, have one extra building just in case we have some kind of boom, and then get rid of everything else. Until somebody acknowledges that, it's always going to be catch up, and it's always going to be, we want what we had last year, even though we have fewer bodies.
Yeah, COVID opened up the eyes of parents. It sure opened up my eyes. My daughters were both going into high school. One was already there. Eagle River High School is one of the best in the state, but the fact of the matter is I still had to supplement their education. I hired a tutor. Not all parents can do it. I sacrificed a lot. I hired a tutor, and my kids were tutored all through their high school years for 5 years. So they still weren't getting the education they needed. And so I had to supplement that. So they were tutored twice a week by a young gal that was 23, connected with my daughters, and they were tutored. And that's how we got through the system. And my daughters are doing very well now at a university on the East Coast.
Well,
so leadership is terrible in Anchorage School District.
Well, and I think in most school districts, quite honestly, I think
this is I don't want to talk bad about everybody else.
I know this is almost a universal problem, right? At this point,
it is.
Let's I guess I'll shift gears, because I did want to talk about your Title IX, the news for Title IX. So let's shift gears for a minute. We can come back to the legislative stuff here in just a bit, but
sure.
Some great news A recent decision by the Department of Ed, which found that California had violated Title IX by allowing biological males to compete in girls' sports. Give me your take on this.
Well, I'm super excited about that. I mean, most people, not most people, but maybe my district knows that I was the first legislator able to get the bill passed for girls in sports for a fair playing field out of the House, and I wasn't able to get it passed and through the Senate. But it is near and dear to my heart. I'm raising two girls. I was in the Junior Olympics. I'm going to age myself a little bit. I started competing in the Junior Olympics, I think it was 1979. So I was about 7 years old out in California. So if that wasn't in place for me, I would be probably racing little boys or not being able to compete. And everybody says, well, when you're that age, 8 or 9, it doesn't matter physically with your competition with little boys, it does. I was an elite athlete. So when I'm competing against elite boys, they would clean my clock. So it matters at every age level. And I think it's been discouraging to see our daughters go down in competing in sports. Why should they when they're going to be beat by a whole bunch of males? I don't want to see that happen. We're not supposed to go backtracking. It's more than just girls and women competing in sports. What's going to happen next? Nobody thought that boys would come back into our sport. And here we are. We have co-ed sports. That's fine. So this is going to impact more than it would have if we didn't have the administration, Trump's administration, backing us up. It impacts everything that a woman does in life.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's gone so far now is that the University of Pennsylvania is now basically having to backtrack.
Groveling.
Yeah, they're having to backtrack on the whole Lia Thomas thing, where they basically didn't protect the girls' rights to participate in sports equally and effectively by allowing this guy to come in and compete. And look, I don't care what you want to do. I'm a libertarian, right? Whatever you want to do in the privacy of your own thing, that's fine. Whatever, I don't care. But you can't put these things together and say this is equal and all fair. I don't think anybody who's intellectually honest is going to say that makes sense.
No, and it doesn't make sense. And when I brought my bill forward and it passed out of the House in 2024, I will tell you that Riley Gaines testified. A lot of people don't know that. She was an amazing testifier. I had individuals that were doctors who came out and testified, scientists, head coaches, NCAA coach Barbara Earnhardt from Idaho. She was the first one to bring any such bill forward and pass it out of Idaho. So I had a lot of great testifiers, and I know I was criticized, well, why are you bringing these people from out of state? Well, because they're the experts. That's what we do. So it was awakening. Riley Gaines is amazing. I'm so proud of her. It's an honor that she was able to get it where we need. It's amazing that we have UPenn now groveling and apologizing to all these women. And I don't even know I know how we got here, but it's astonishing that we are here.
Well, it is
saying,
astonishing.
We're fighting for this,
Yeah, just 3 or 4 short years later, here we are. I mean, we thought this was going to be like a long-term thing, and now it's starting to reverse because I think people are starting to get kind of sick of the whole thing of, I mean, again, anybody who's intellectually honest knows that if you put 2 athletes on the field, and like you said, 2 peak athletes on the field, that if it requires strength and endurance, that the man is 99 times out of 100 is going to win. Simply because of physiology. You can't fight biology. That's how it works. But they, folks just want to call an egg a squirrel and to say that's how it works.
And I'm Generation X, right? I'm 54. So it took 2 generations because Generation Z is paying the price for it.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
As a Gen Xer.
And that's how quickly things can turn.
Yeah, I feel it. So this is good news. What do you think is good? What's the future here in the state of Alaska? I mean, I know you got your bill, it was a House Bill 40, I think is what it was. You got it pushed through. You got it pushed through the House, but not the Senate. With the makeup we have right now, what are your chances this next go round?
Yeah, so I haven't been able to even introduce it into the House. They're not going to listen to it. So this year for 2025, it kind of just sits there. The only thing that's protecting us right now is the Trump administration it is a goal. I told people this is a goal. This is a hill I would die on because it impacts so much more in a woman's life. It's not just about the sports. It impacts so much more. And this bill actually covers women and girls from K-12 all the way up to collegiate competition. I don't see it going anywhere. I don't even have the platform to be able to talk on it. I was told that if I did bring it forward and it was heard, that I'm not allowed to bring any testifiers that were the likes of Riley Gaines or anybody else because they don't want a circus. So
because
that's great.
Apparently facts hurt their feelings. And I guess that's
yes.
That's how it works around here.
I think one day, Michael, it is going to pass and it is going to happen.
Yeah.
Trump is not going to be our president forever. And it is going to have to move forward and it is going to pass. And that means we're going to have to take the majority back in the House. And I'm going to have to work hard to get Republicans back on board. It was a fight to get all of them on board in 2023, 2024 to be able to pass this bill. And I was accused of, you just want media. This doesn't make sense. So it's something that it's just not a Democrat issue. There's a lot of Republicans who don't like it.
Well, and there's a lot of independents. I think the independents are the ones that get missed out in the middle. They're like, look, we don't want to really participate in my party versus your party madness, but this doesn't make sense. This is an issue that they could go, what? This doesn't make sense. And
and they call it a social issue, and I call it an independent and constitutional right.
Yeah, no, I mean, only a social issue because they've made it a social issue at this point. That's what it is, for sure. Well, good news, I guess, on that terms, and of course, bad news for the near future, but maybe in the longer term future, we could swing it back the other way and we can get more common sense back into the legislature on that. Jamie Allard is our guest, state rep for District 23. We've been talking about the session and education, and now the Title IX stuff and the men in girls sports thing, which again, I'm happy to see that that's kind of turning the corner in that regard. Let's hope that the momentum stays up on that as we move forward. But let's come back to the next session. And the next session, well, I guess we got about 2.5 minutes here. I guess we could talk about the potential next session, because before you came on here, I got a text message from little birdie who said, by the way, I hear that the governor may be calling a special session today, which, I mean, by all accounts, from what I was hearing, ain't nobody really on board with that. What are your thoughts? I mean, is this something that you would welcome, you would encourage? Do you think it's going to get any traction? What are your thoughts? And I guess it depends on what the governor calls the special session over, but give me your thoughts on this.
Can I? Okay. Well, if he does call a special session, I'm trying to be discreet here. I don't think it's going to work, is it?
Well,
I think it's,
I brought it up, so this is not on you. I mean, like I said, I got plenty of folks reaching out to me all the time, so I get a little bit of behind the scenes. I'm not trying to sandbag anybody, but you're the ones, the guys in the legislature are the ones that are going to have to answer the call or take care of this. So I'm just thinking, what are your thoughts? I mean, obviously we don't know what the call is going to be, but
right. So when you go into a special session, if the legislature calls us into a special session, we can discuss anything, right? It's like the mic is turned back on. It's hot. So every bill, everything that's going on, everything that's moving, every amendment is back in play. If the governor calls us back into a special session, he can dictate what's on the table, and whether we do it or not, it would be up to all of us. So I would assume if he's calling us back into special session that we're going to be talking about education, and I welcome it. And we need to get this done and over with. But I just want to stop making it all about education. We have the votes to do what we need to do, move on, and continue with the infrastructure and our budget and our revenue in the state of Alaska. That's going to be a driving force of getting people up here. So if it's about education, let's get this done and moved and off the table. Stop letting the Democrats drive the agenda.
Well, but to me, that's part of the problem, Jamie, is that because we know that what we just saw in this last session was phase one, right? And we could talk about this here as we continue. We're gonna go to break here, and when we come back, we'll talk about phase two potentially, and whether that's in the special session or whether that's in the regular session. We'll see where that goes. All right, Jamie Allard, our guest, the Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll return with more here in just a moment. One final segment dead ahead. We'll be back. right after this with more common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
Listened to by more staffers in Juneau than any other show because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, oh man, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad, bad man.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, we're in the break. Jamie Allard is our guest, and we are continuing here throughout the program. Yeah, I guarantee you, your words will be transcribed and played for somebody today, Jamie, because you appeared on the show. Welcome to the madness that is politics.
Yeah, I'm okay with all that.
I know. I didn't think you were going to be too butthurt about that. I figured that would be that would be all good. But you're right. It was, as I said earlier, the last 5 or 6 years, it's been the PFD, right? That's been the thing that's been sucking up all the oxygen in the room. Every session it's always coming back to the PFD. And now we've become kind of inured to it. And this year it was more like an afterthought than anything else. Now they're moving on to other things. And whether that's, education was the big one this year, but defined benefits is waiting in the wings as well.
Yeah.
You know
what's interesting about defined benefits, and I even brought it up to the president of the NEA. I said, if you really want defined benefits, and I said it on the record in finance committee, I said, then why aren't you doing a third-party contribution with your members with the NEA? You have enough teachers in the state of Alaska. The IBEW does it. Why aren't you putting a third-party contribution retirement plan together? And he said, because the state should do it. I said, no, because the single mom in Bethel shouldn't be paying for the teacher in Eagle River to get a defined benefit. You need to circle back around and reevaluate this.
Right.
And by the way, the president of the NEA lives in my house district. So it was an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I bet it was. Well, because it's literally about, in the end, this is literally about money, power, and control, because the unions would be, they'd be the arbiters of a lot of this stuff that's going on with these new benefits and everything else. And it would give them a monumental amount of power to be able to do that. So they don't want to do it themselves. They want the state and somebody else to pick up the tab because they don't want to cut into their coffers.
You're right. And I like defined contributions. I think it's better. I think you get more money. And you know what? Your salary is going to stay up if you're a first responder. So first responders are going to have to recognize, and I got to tell you, when I say first responders, firefighters, police officers, but when they come and talk to me privately, they're like, Jamie, I'd rather have defined contributions. I said, of course you will. It goes and inherited whatever you save to your children and potentially your grandchildren.
Sure. Well, it's portable.
But they're going to have to take a cut in their income, because if you really think defined benefits is going to recruit and keep people within the state, which it's not, but if it's going to, we're Alaska, we're very unique with the weather and the darkness. People don't necessarily can deal with it. You are going to see their income is going to have to go down. Why would you give overtime when you have defined benefits?
Right.
So I only get 3 police officers at any one time in my house district, and then we have a rogue police officer. And then yet you want me to pay for all these police officers across the state of Alaska and everywhere else. That's not fair, and it's not right.
Yeah. Well,
I don't get the same services that Anchorage and the municipality does. Eagle River, even though we're part of the same umbrella, we don't get the same services.
Right. Well, and one of the things that I think people continue to forget is that the workforce has changed, right?
Absolutely.
30 years ago, people talked about staying in a job for 20 years, 25 years, retiring, having a pension, those kind of things. But the workforce has completely changed. And COVID really changed a lot of people where they'd rather float around. They'd rather do changes. And defined benefits is not portable. I mean, defined contributions, totally portable. Defined benefits, you're locked in. So if you want to hold people prisoner and have them be bitter about having to stay there just to be able to keep their benefits, I guess that would be good. But I mean, the average millennials change jobs, 12 times or something in their careers, 15 times. Why would you try and lock somebody in who doesn't want to be there?
Yeah, and they call it the golden handcuffs. So let's be real. Do you want an angry teacher? Do you want an angry police officer because he's miserable? Because I've heard of police officers come up here from the likes of Texas, state troopers that are like, I really liked it at first. My family hated it. It was dark. It was gloomy. The weather's rough. I come from a place that doesn't snow. My family has gone back to the lower 48 and I'm stuck. They don't
Yeah.
want that.
Yeah.
And so it's very interesting. So I don't want an angry firefighter, police officer. I want someone who loves their job. And if they decide they want to move on, that's great. One way to recruit, and I brought this up, stop just giving the senior police officers and firefighters the overtime. Let the rookies take some of the overtime.
Sure.
Let the rookies
Sure.
take some of the overtime. I know police officers that been in the system for 8 years, defined contributions, make $200,000 a year. They work a lot. You can't just work 40 hours and get that. So what's going to happen when the defined benefits come down? You're not making 200,000 salary. I'd rather take the 200,000.
Yeah. No, I'd
all
rather
day
take the
long.
immediate
Mhm.
money all day long. Absolutely.
Yes.
To have to do it. But again, this is going to be the big push, right? This is going to be the
It
big
is.
push. This is where they're going.
Yeah.
We'll have to see.
Let's bankrupt Alaska. That's
Yeah.
what they want to do.
We'll see where this goes here in the long run. All right, we're 30 seconds out from rejoining the radio. Jamie Allard is our guest, state rep, and enjoyed the conversation so far. Hopefully we'll maybe we can have her back on here a couple times before we get back to session. That would be fun when she's not.
Well, during session, I'll be a little bit more feisty.
Yeah.
I'll be pissed.
Well, that'll be great.
That'll be more lively.
Hey, that makes good radio. I like that. I like it. Let's
Oh, I could do that.
let's set that up. We'll get it out there, especially when you really don't care what if somebody's listening or not, which is a lot of
I
time.
don't really care right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't care.
All right. Well, let's get to it. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
All right. We are ready to go. One final segment with Jamie Allard, our guest here, House Rep from State District 23 in Eagle River. And she comes on board here to talk with us. We've been talking about education. We've talked about Title IX, defined benefits we were just talking about during the break. But phase one is what I was talking about before we went to break, which is, the second that the bill HB 57 was passed, before the governor vetoed it, before any, you would have thought that people would have been, celebrating in the streets, champagne, whatever. But they were all like, okay, well, that's a good start. Now we'll be back for more. I mean, this is because remember, the number originally was not 700. The number originally Loki Tobin and company were talking about back in the day was $1,900 increase in the BSA. So this is this is the first bite at the apple, right? I mean, are you fully expecting us to come back and be subsumed by another whole session of nothing but education?
Yeah, I assume that with defined benefits, and I'm just not going to have it. I don't have control of what's going on. I was voted by my peers to be on the finance committee, which just blows my mind, the stuff that sits and comes in front of us. And one thing I learned is it's always a hot mic. So I like to take advantage of that. You don't have to push your button to speak like you do on the Anchorage Assembly. So it's kind of nice. But yeah, that's going to be their talking point. It's going to be their driving point going into the elections. Republicans need to stop making the talking point and just say, look, enough is enough, and just stop engaging with it and stop trying to do this or do that when it comes to arguing of the amount. Just say no. Just say no.
The governor submitted a bill that was in many ways identical to HB 57 as far as the funding mechanism. It just had some policies in there. But instead of talking about it like adults, finding a compromise, finding some middle ground, it was just a tantrum of give us our money, shut up and give us our money. And if that
but it was linked to taxes.
Yeah. Well,
why isn't that not coming up?
Yeah.
And then the budget, the money that the BSA was going to be coming from to be funded was from the Higher Education Scholarship Fund, which was going to impact our high schoolers. And ADA, like, what are you guys thinking? So when you have it coming from those accounts, and then you're going to also have a tax link to it, and then the policies, exception to, I think, one, which was the reading one, when you have all that in play and none of it is actually mandatory, give me a break. And when you have Democrats and Republicans going, oh no, it's all linked to great policy. No, it's not. None of it's mandatory.
Right.
What are you telling the school districts they have to come up with a policy for the cell phone bill? They already have it. Oh, I see what you're saying. So now they have to submit it to deed. And what if we disapprove? Nothing happens. Here's our policy. Okay, thank you. Talk to you tomorrow.
Right, right.
So it's a no. It's a ridiculous.
Well,
bill.
everything.
And so I was a no vote.
Yeah, everything they had was basically just paying lip service to any policy
Mhm.
changes, and again, it was shut
Yep.
up and give us our money, essentially. And when is enough?
And the
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just
Oh,
gonna
okay.
say,
Well, the Democrats led the charge when they said they don't want inside funding. For years, they did that. For many, many terms, they did that. And the reason they didn't want the inside funding with the BSA to increase it was because you can't control the budget. So as soon as you do inside funding, all that money is gone. You can't control the budget. So I voted for the 680 without policy in it, but it was outside funding in 2024. I stayed with my caucus. We all did it. We fought to have that policy in there. Governor just said we didn't like that. So we said, okay, we'll back the governor. Let's move forward. Let's go do something else.
right.
But now that you're going to have that inside funding, the Democrats, the Republicans, all the legislature will lose control of where to put the funds. Now, in saying and doing that, it's fine if that's how they want to go about doing it. But it's very strategic how the Democrats did it to do inside funding because the 2026 elections are going to be very, very important.
Well,
I do believe that the legislature, Republicans, can take back the House and take the Senate, but we have Republicans that just won't caucus with Republicans.
Right. Well,
so it's a really odd thing.
Look, I've said this for a long time. This is not a Democrat or a Republican problem. This is
Correct.
a big government spender versus a
Yep.
smaller government spender problem, which is what we have. We don't, it doesn't matter if they got dinosaurs or donkeys or elephants on their lapels. What matters is what is their philosophy. And we've got a lot of people in there wearing elephants who are basically government is good. Government is the answer to every problem. We should be looking to government for everything. And that is part of the problem.
Yes.
And I don't know how to get those districts to see that when they reelect these people for 20, 30, 25, 30 years how do we get those how do we change that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think part of the process of doing that is clearly one of them is repealing ranked choice voting. You got to be able to look at someone. The public has to be able to look at someone and say, we don't like what you're doing. So instead of you just being able to pull any and all votes that you want, you're not aligning with our platform and my values. So we're going to primary you. I know it's a dirty word. People don't want to hear it. Primary. Well, you know what? You got to straighten up or we're going to primary you. That's my philosophy. People say, we don't need just one party. You don't need to be beholden to the Republican Party. Let me let everybody understand something. I am beholden to the Republican Party. I align with their platform. I don't want any constituent of mine to be confused on where I stand. And if I just run out there as an independent, they're not knowing where I stand. I'm not doing that to them. I
Right.
stand with the Republican Party. That's my platform. I never say I have a libertarian streak. I know a lot of people say that. The reason why I don't say it is because I don't think I do. I think everything the Republican platform says, I would call myself more of a constitutionalist. Fine, there you have it. But I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, I'm not part of the Republican platform. I should go do what I want to do. That's not why my people voted for me.
Right.
I don't need them confused. Yeah.
For who you are and where
So
you
yeah,
are.
that's right.
Yeah. So this next session is going to be education again. How do the Republicans change, or the conservative Republicans, the smaller government people, how do they change the narrative? You said it earlier, we need to change the narrative. So how do you change the narrative? If you're in the minority again, how do you change that narrative?
I just keep talking. I go on the radio like I'm doing now. I put out my stuff on my social media. I speak on my hot mics. I speak at the committees all the time. And when people say that the number one thing is education, it's not. I go door knocking. I know what my people are saying at the door. Yeah, they're concerned about it. But you know what they're really concerned about? How to pay their mortgage. They're really concerned about how they pay their gas. What they're really concerned about is how do I get groceries in my house? Their kids are going to go through the system. They understand that. They recognize it. They're going to keep fighting for it. But how are they going to stay in Alaska when they can't feed their family? So for me, we have to change the narrative. You got to be vocal about it. I don't know if my fellow Republicans, fellow conservatives, we're outnumbered in the House. The conservatives are. We're outnumbered in the Senate. So we'll just have to figure it out on how to stick together with the narrative. But I don't know if we can. But I do know that we just pound our chest and we keep saying, hey, there's
Right.
things we got to do in order to make our education system better. Yes, we have to change the policy, but we do have big things to worry about how does Alaska survive? And we need to embrace what the Trump administration is bringing down to us. And I'm very proud of the governor beating his chest. And I know that he's been criticized about not being involved in education. The man is an educator. He has been very involved, and we don't always have to like everything we do, but he has prioritized the fact that we need to embrace our resources and bring people up here, and it will all work into place. When you have a better economy, when you have better infrastructure, the homeless go down, the housing goes up. There's a whole bunch of things that are triggered by it, and people will vote with their feet, and they'll come to Alaska.
I've been predicting on the program because, like I said earlier, the PFD was sucking up all the oxygen for years. But I've predicted this year on the program that this will probably be the last year we get the PFD, unless something major changes, because next year is supposed to be $1.5 billion.
You mean like we all should vote with the statute?
Yeah, exactly.
The original statute.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I mean, we got $1.5 billion deficit coming up next year, which would consume all of the remaining PFD and then some. So how do we get back to a full PFD in your mind quickly?
Well, we need a cut. You got $242 million that's going to vacant positions in the state of Alaska. You have to cut. But as soon as you cut, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, everybody across the state box. Oh, I need my roads done. I need this done. Well, you got to figure it out. Do you want your full PFD, or do you want to get these services done? There's got to be a happy medium. And I honestly, being on finance committee, my eyes are really open to what type of situation we're in. I do believe that the resources come up here with the Trump administration. We can't continue to get hopefully a full PFD, stick to the statute, but you have to cut. If the people in charge aren't willing to cut, you're not going to get your full PFD. That's just the bottom line. Then that's just the facts. That's true.
Yeah.
If your legislature won't cut, you're not going to get your full PFD.
Jamie Allard is our guest. Jamie, we're down to about the last 90 seconds. Give me your final thoughts for today on the situation, the legislature, everything else. Where are we going? Give me your final thoughts here.
I think everybody needs to be strong. I don't think that the constituents in the state of Alaska should give up. I know everybody says we're turning blue. Frankly, we're red, and we have been for a long time. We used to be blue, and we're moving to the red side, and everybody needs to continue to drive on, move forward, and understand that the Democrats have a stronghold in us. And I don't think it's all the Democrats in the state of Alaska. I think outside entities are impacting us. Stay strong. We could do this, and support your president. And support America. America first.
Wait, that's there's a unique idea. Maybe we should be paying attention to ourselves first and let the rest of the world follow up. That would probably be a good
and
call.
Stop interfering with ICE. Let them do their job. America first, 100%.
All right, Jamie Allard is our guest. She House District 23. Jamie, thank you so much for coming on board and joining us today. We appreciate that. Hold the line for just 1 second. Folks, we're out of time. Tomorrow is Thursday. We're going to do a little firearm stuff, maybe some Willie, maybe some other stuff. We hope you have a great day. Be kind, love one another, live well. All right, Jamie, since this is your first time on the show, usually right after we get off the air, we give you an open mic for a couple. You like hot mics, so we're going to give you an open mic here for a couple minutes, just to anything we didn't cover that you wanted to cover, any topics you wanted to dive a little bit deeper into. We got 2 or 3 minutes here for you to just kind of have your say as we go forward here.
Yeah, I have a lot of good bills that are coming out, and I don't think they're going to be heard. You know, you get stonewalled by your own members that you're part of a caucus with because they don't think their district would agree with their votes. I have a bill that's coming out that I've already had that's not being able to transition the children, not be able to mutilate their bodies, give them hormone blockers. It aligns with the federal government. Had that one my first session up there as well. That's important. But what I think last year I got 13 Republicans, not 25 session, but 24 on board with it. A lot of them don't like it. Criminal and civil actions would be against those doctors. My deaf and hard of hearing bill, that needs to stop. They had a zero fiscal note. They wanted to amend and add a $60 million fiscal note. I'm going to go ahead and push it through, see what Senate does with it. Elvie Gray Jackson is awesome. She's handling it on the companion side. I have my land bill, which prohibits any foreign entities from buying up our land here in Alaska. I have a lot of stuff going through, daylight savings, just working really hard, but you got to, sometimes you got to wheel and deal and give in on certain things. And honestly, I'm not going to compromise bills and compromise what my district wants. I do a lot of things behind the scenes. We're getting roads fixed here in Eagle River. We're working with DOT. People need anything fixed, I get with the commissioners. It's not just about good bills and bad bills. I know a lot of people like to, say, oh, I passed this bill or I did this. There's a lot more that's going on as a legislator than just passing bad bills and good bills and everything else. So I think people need to be focused on what we do as a legislator within our House district that might not be newsworthy. And that is our job. We're supposed to have that direct constituent relationship. And even when I have some hardcore lefties, and yes, we do have those here in Eagle River, if they call me on a situation that they need help with, I'm more than happy to do it. I won't be voting anytime soon for increase of BSA, but that's okay. If the governor wants it, that's fine. We'll go forward and we'll do what we have to do. So we'll see what this special session brings out, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he has to say. I think it's going to it's going to be announced today.
I think I think well, I mean, I'm interested to hear if he does it. I mean, if it is true, if the rumor is true, I'm interested to hear what he calls it on, and then I'm interested in the legislature's reaction to it. But like you said, you've got to keep pumping the pump. You can't grow weary in well doing. And it's good to see that you're out there pushing the buttons and writing the legislation and doing what you can do. And we want to welcome you back on the program. Anytime you want to come in and talk about it, you're always welcome to come in, and we'd love to have you on more often to discuss this, because we need more of this kind of frank talk. And I think that's, even with legislators who I consider to be some of the strongest legislators, they kind of they tiptoe around the tulips a little bit sometimes, because, we got to work with people. We got to do this. We got to do that. But what people want to hear is the truth. They don't want to hear it sugar-coated. They want to hear the truth, and they want to know what is going on, and they want people to speak to power, which is sometimes, as much as I would disagree with some of Trump's rhetoric or the way he delivers, it is something that resonates with people because he's not pulling any punches. And I think that's what people respect about him. And I think that is I think that's something that we could emulate here, not necessarily the delivery or the bombacity, but at least the, pulling no punches and just laying it out like it is. I think that is a good thing to do.
Yeah. And I'm working really well with the majority caucus, the Democrats, independents, and a few Republicans over there, and the 19 Republicans we have. It's always a challenge, but, I got a lot of people in the majority and a lot of people in the minority that are backing my bills, and they will go forward and they'll pass. And if not, I'm not going to sacrifice everything. So I'm excited to see what happens this next session, but I'm also dreading being in the minority. And, I wouldn't want to be responsible for this budget that's going across. I mean, it was a hot mess.
Oh, it's going to be.
But it was interesting to listen to it on finance. And I know I spar with a couple of them, and Andy Josephson and I have a little side agreement behind the scenes. I'm like, okay, Andy, don't say that, because then I'm going to come back. And he's like, yeah, I guess you're right. I'm like, yeah, I'm right. So we have to respect each other. So when another legislator is speaking, they've got to let us speak. We represent a lot of people. So I think that's a good thing at the legislature versus what happens down at the Anchorage Assembly, which is a hot mess. And I think we also want to make sure everybody gets on board with this Eagle exit.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is a local issue, but we need to exit.
Oh yeah, you guys need to get your own thing going on for sure. 100%.
We need our own assembly, our own mayor, and we need to do what we have to do. So we'll see what happens this next few hours with the special session, if it's going to be announced or not.
All right. Well, I can't wait to see it. Jamie, thank you so much for coming on board. Again, we look forward to talking to you again here in the near future. Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you coming on. All right, folks, that's it for us today. We are out of time. We will see you tomorrow. Again, be kind, love one another, live well. That's my exhortation to you. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. See you tomorrow.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.